Welcome to the video summarizing the book on Becoming a Person by Carl R. Rogers, one of the important works in the field of humanistic psychology. This book will guide us in exploring the process of becoming our true selves, from understanding ourselves to developing the ability to self-heal and building deep relationships. Let's delve into the main chapters of the work to discover the unique philosophies and valuable lessons that Rogers has shared, helping us live happier and more harmonious lives with ourselves. Chapter 1: The Process of Becoming a Person. In this chapter, Rogers focuses on explaining the process of personal development and the concept of self-awareness. He emphasizes that becoming a true person is not a fixed state, but a continuous journey of self-exploration and developing consciousness about oneself. Rogers begins by discussing the inner tension and conflict within each person between societal expectations and personal needs. He argues that everyone must go through the process of overcoming these pressures to discover their true essence. He writes, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change," which means that the paradox is that when we accept ourselves with all our strengths and weaknesses, we can truly change and grow. An important point in this chapter is Rogers' emphasis on the concept of experience. He believes that to become truly human, we must allow ourselves to experience emotions and thoughts honestly, without being influenced by external pressures. According to Rogers, it is these experiences that help individuals become freer and live authentically. He explains, "Experience is, for me, the highest authority. The touchstone of validity is my own experience, meaning that personal experience is the highest standard of correctness, and each person can find their own truth through these experiences." This chapter also lays the foundation for Rogers' client-centered therapy theory. He highlights the importance of self-acceptance and developing a sense of personal value, which he considers core to the process of self-development. Rogers argues that when a person feels accepted unconditionally and is not judged, they will begin the process of positive personal change and growth. The more I can keep a relationship free of judgment and evaluation, the more this will permit the other person to reach the point where they recognize the barriers they have set up to their own self-realization, he states. This means that a non-judgmental relationship will allow individuals to recognize the barriers they have created that prevent them from achieving self-awareness. Chapter 1 of the book is a call for each person to explore and accept themselves to achieve true development. Rogers encourages us to live authentically with our emotions and thoughts, to transcend societal expectations, and to seek truth through personal experience. This is the process of becoming a person that he aims to convey, a never-ending journey to find and develop oneself. Chapter 2: Personality and Experience. This chapter continues to delve deeper into how each individual develops their identity through connections with personal experiences. Carl R. Rogers argues that the process of becoming a true person is not merely about self-understanding, but also about clear awareness and acceptance of one's internal experiences. Rogers begins this chapter with the viewpoint that everyone has unique personal experiences, and these experiences are the foundation for developing individuality. He writes, "The individual has within themselves vast resources for self-understanding, for altering their self-concept, attitudes, and self-directed behavior," meaning that each individual possesses immense potential for self-understanding, changing their self-perception, and adjusting their behavior. However, this can only occur when a person dares to confront their experiences authentically and without judgment. An important concept that Rogers emphasizes in this chapter is the distinction between experience and awareness. He explains that many people often tend to deny or distort their experiences to conform to external expectations or social prejudices. This creates a disconnect between the true self and the self they think they should be. Rogers asserts that reconnecting with one's true experiences is the way to achieve harmony and personal freedom. He writes, "When an experience is fully accepted into consciousness, it is integrated into the self-structure, and the person is more fully themselves," which means that when an experience is fully accepted into awareness, it is integrated into the self-structure, and the person becomes more complete. In this chapter, Rogers also discusses the openness to experience, a crucial factor in personal development. He emphasizes that only when a person is open to their experiences can they grow and change. This means acknowledging not only positive emotions but also negative emotions, pain, or fear. According to him, every experience, whether good or bad, holds value in the process of human development. He states, to be open to experience is to allow the person to be alive, sensitive to both the external world and the internal feelings that arise, meaning that openness to experience allows individuals to become alive and sensitive to both the external world and the internal emotions that arise. Rogers also addresses the role of psychotherapy in helping individuals integrate personal experiences into their self-awareness. In a safe and non-judgmental therapeutic environment, individuals gradually learn to confront experiences they may have previously avoided. Rogers argues that understanding and accepting oneself through experiences will help individuals grow. He writes, "The curious paradox is that the more open to experience a person is, the less they are controlled by external conditions, and the more they are able to live by their own standards and values." Meaning that the paradox is that the more open a person is to experience, the less they are controlled by external conditions, and the more they can live according to their own standards and values. Chapter 2 of On Becoming a Person emphasizes the importance of personal experience in the process of identity development and individuality. Carl Rogers encourages each person to be open and authentic with their experiences because integrating these experiences into themselves will help them become stronger and develop holistically. This is the process that helps each person become their true version of themselves, free from the pressures or expectations imposed by others. Chapter 3, The Development of the Self and Personal Autonomy. This chapter continues to explore the relationship between self-awareness and the capacity for personal development. In this chapter, Carl R. Rogers focuses on the role of autonomy in shaping personal identity, while emphasizing that each person has the ability to decide the direction of their life and develop personally based on those choices. Rogers begins this chapter by explaining that autonomy is fundamental to personal development and is built through the processes of self-awareness and self-acceptance. He emphasizes, the most fundamental condition for a person to grow is that they experience themselves as having the power to make choices that matter, meaning that the most important condition for a person to develop is that they must experience themselves as a being with the power to make meaningful choices. The ability to choose allows individuals to orient their lives, thus opening the path for personal development. In this chapter, Rogers also presents the view that development cannot occur in an environment controlled by external pressures. He believes that personal freedom and the ability to self-determine will help individuals achieve maturity and comprehensive growth. This aligns with the idea of unconditional acceptance that he mentioned in previous chapters. Only when an individual is given the opportunity to choose and develop naturally can they achieve personal completeness. Rogers writes, when a person feels that they must conform to the expectations of others, their growth is stifled, meaning that when a person feels they must adhere to others' expectations, their development will be hindered. An important concept in this chapter is the personal responsibility for one's decisions. Rogers emphasizes that each person not only has the freedom to choose but must also take responsibility for those decisions. This means that individuals must take responsibility for their own successes or failures. He explains, with autonomy comes the realization that we are responsible for the consequences of our own choices, meaning that with autonomy, individuals must recognize that they are accountable for the outcomes of their own choices. This is a crucial part of the personal development process, as it requires individuals to face both their successes and failures, allowing them to learn and grow. Rogers also addresses the psychological aspect of autonomy, stating that when people feel they lack the ability to self-determine or must live according to others' standards, they will feel a sense of loss and struggle to develop. In contrast, when they have the right to self-determine, they will feel free and motivated to explore their capabilities. He emphasizes, the fully functioning person is one who is capable of using their freedom to choose wisely and responsibly, meaning that a fully functioning person is one who knows how to use their freedom to make wise and responsible choices. Finally, Rogers stresses that personal development is a continuous process, and the ability to self-determine is a determining factor for a person to advance further in life. He believes that freedom in thought and action will help individuals discover their potential and develop in the direction they desire. He writes, "Growth occurs when a person is able to take control of their own life and make choices that reflect their true self," meaning that growth occurs when a person can control their life and make decisions that reflect their true nature. Chapter 3 of On Becoming a Person highlights the importance of autonomy in the process of personal development. Carl R. Rogers encourages each individual to recognize that they have the freedom to choose and are responsible for their decisions. Only when individuals are autonomous and accountable can they develop holistically and become the best version of themselves. Chapter 4, What It Means to Become a Helper. This chapter focuses on the role of relationships in supporting the personal development of others. Carl R. Rogers analyzes the core factors in a helping relationship, particularly in a therapeutic context, but also applies broadly to all human relationships. According to him, relationships that can promote personal development must be based on several fundamental principles such as authenticity, unconditional acceptance, and empathy. Authenticity and congruence. Rogers emphasizes that authenticity is the first factor in a relationship that helps others develop. This means that the helper must be themselves, genuine, and not try to create a false image. When a person is authentic and open, the other party will feel safer to express themselves honestly. Rogers writes, "The more that I can be genuinely myself in the relationship, the more likely it is that the other person will change and grow," meaning that when one can be genuinely themselves in a relationship, the other person is more likely to change and grow. Unconditional positive regard. Another important factor in a helping relationship is the ability to accept others unconditionally, without judgment. Rogers emphasizes that personal development can only occur when a person feels completely accepted, regardless of their weaknesses or mistakes. This is a prerequisite for an individual to open up and experience change. He asserts, when someone feels that they are accepted as they are, without conditions, it allows them to explore and discover their true self, meaning that when a person feels accepted as they are, unconditionally, they will be able to explore and discover their true self. Unconditional acceptance does not mean agreeing with every behavior or viewpoint of the other person, but rather creating a safe and non-judgmental space where they can express themselves naturally. Rogers believes that this helps the other person become more confident in their ability to change and grow. Empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand the feelings and experiences of others from their perspective. Rogers suggests that to support the development of others, the helper needs to feel what the other person is experiencing and subtly express that understanding. He emphasizes, empathy involves being able to perceive the internal frame of reference of another with accuracy and to communicate this understanding to the person involved. Meaning that empathy requires the ability to accurately perceive another's internal viewpoint and convey this understanding to them. Rogers believes that when the person being helped feels understood, they will be more confident in facing their emotions and experiences. Empathy is not just a listening act, but a deep connection with the feelings and thoughts of the other person, helping them feel understood and not alone. The importance of psychological safety. Rogers emphasizes that a supportive relationship for development must create a safe space for the other person. This means that the person being helped must feel they can express all aspects of themselves without fear of judgment, criticism, or rejection. He writes, the person must feel safe enough in the relationship to venture forth and express feelings that have been hidden or denied, meaning that they must feel safe enough in the relationship to dare to express emotions that have been hidden or denied. In a safe space, people can confront difficult or painful emotions without pressure. It is in this environment that personal development can occur naturally. Non-directive approach. Rogers opposes imposed or overly directive therapeutic methods. He believes that each person has the ability to self-explore and develop in their own way. The helper should not control or impose their values or views on the other person, but should create a space for the other to self-direct their path of development. He asserts, "It is not my role to solve problems for others, but to provide a supportive environment where they can find their own solutions." meaning that his role is not to solve problems for others, but to create a supportive environment for them to find their own solutions. Chapter 4 of On Becoming a Person focuses on the core factors necessary to create a truly valuable helping relationship. Carl R. Rogers emphasizes authenticity, unconditional acceptance, empathy, and psychological safety as the foundations for promoting personal development. By building such relationships, individuals can not only support each other but also create conditions for their own comprehensive development and achieve deeper self-awareness. Chapter 5, The Nature of Therapeutic Change. Carl R. Rogers explains further about the process of change that occurs in an effective therapeutic environment. He highlights the important factors that facilitate personal change and development, as well as the psychological mechanisms that help participants overcome difficulties and achieve positive transformation. The process of change is gradual. Rogers begins this chapter by emphasizing that change in therapy does not happen immediately, but is a gradual process that requires time and patience. He argues that real and lasting change often comes from within, as individuals slowly adjust and adapt to new perceptions of themselves and the world around them. Rogers writes, "Real change, lasting change is often slow and gradual and is characterized by small shifts in understanding and feeling," meaning that true change, lasting change, is often slow and gradual, characterized by small shifts in understanding and feeling. Facilitating change through the therapeutic relationship. One of the main points of this chapter is the role of the relationship between the therapist and the client in creating change. Rogers believes that change occurs best when clients feel safe, accepted, and non-judged in the therapeutic relationship. He asserts that the understanding, unconditional acceptance, and genuineness of the therapist are critical factors that help clients feel safe enough to express themselves and begin the change process. He writes, "It is within a relationship where empathy, acceptance, and congruence are present that real change begins to occur," meaning that it is within a relationship characterized by empathy, acceptance, and authenticity that real change begins to take place. Accepting one's emotions and experiences, Rogers emphasizes that an important part of the change process is accepting and confronting deep-seated emotions, even painful ones, that the individual may have previously tried to avoid or deny. He believes that only when a person is willing to confront these emotions and experiences can they truly change and develop. Rogers states, "The process of change begins when a person allows themselves to experience and accept the full range of their emotions without denial or distortion," meaning that the process of change begins when a person allows themselves to experience and accept their full range of emotions without denial or distortion. Accepting oneself comprehensively is a prerequisite for a person to start the transformation process, as at that point, they no longer feel the need to hide or deny aspects of themselves. The transformation from defensiveness to openness. Rogers also emphasizes that change in therapy often involves individuals moving from a defensive state to a more open state. Initially, many clients come to therapy with a protective mindset, unwilling to confront difficult emotions or acknowledge their weaknesses. However, over time, as they feel safe and understood, they begin to open up more and are willing to explore aspects of themselves that they may have previously avoided. Rogers writes, "Change occurs when the individual moves from a defensive posture to one of openness and trust," meaning that change occurs when the individual shifts from a defensive state to one of openness and trust. This openness is not only about being open with the therapist, but also about being open with oneself, meaning the individual is willing to recognize and accept their imperfect aspects. Change is the integration of emotion and reason. Rogers explains that an important part of the change process is the integration of emotion and reason. He suggests that one of the reasons many people struggle with change is that they often have conflicts between their emotions and thoughts. When an individual can find harmony between these two elements, that is, when they can clearly experience their emotions while simultaneously thinking about them logically, they will be able to create positive changes in their lives. Rogers asserts, "True change involves the integration of feelings and thoughts, where the individual can both experience their emotions and think clearly about them," meaning that true change includes the integration of feelings and thoughts, where the individual can both experience their emotions and think clearly about them. Increased self-awareness. Rogers also mentions that an important part of the change process is an increase in self-awareness. As a person becomes more aware of their emotions, thoughts, and actions, they will be better able to choose appropriate and proactive ways to behave in life. He emphasizes, as self-awareness increases, so too does the ability to make choices that reflect one's true self, meaning that as self-awareness increases, the ability to make choices that reflect one's true self also increases. Enhancing self-awareness allows individuals more freedom to change their lives in ways they desire. Chapter 5 of On Becoming a Person helps us better understand the nature of change in psychological therapy and personal life. Carl R. Rogers emphasizes that change is a gradual process based on an empathetic therapeutic relationship, unconditional acceptance, and authenticity. True change begins when individuals can accept and experience their emotions, let go of defensive mechanisms, and integrate their emotions with reason. With support from an appropriately helpful relationship, each individual can become self-aware and grow, thereby achieving positive and lasting transformation in their lives. Chapter 6: What it means to become a person. In this chapter, Carl R. Rogers focuses on describing the experiences and feelings individuals undergo as they progress in their self-development. Rogers emphasizes that this process is not just about behavioral change, but also involves profound emotional and cognitive transformation. He analyzes a range of feelings that a person may encounter when they begin to explore themselves honestly and openly. The feeling of self-discovery, one of the most important feelings that Rogers highlights, is the sensation that arises when a person starts to explore themselves authentically, confronting their true self. As individuals begin to gain deeper insight into themselves, they experience the realization that they have not been living in alignment with their true selves. This can bring relief, but may also come with anxiety, as self-exploration often requires one to change long-established beliefs and behaviors. Rogers writes, "It is an emotional realization that one is on the path to discovering who they truly are, as opposed to who they were conditioned to be, indicating that this is an emotional awareness that a person is on the journey to uncover their true identity, rather than the person they were shaped to become." This feeling brings liberation, but also demands courage. The feelings of uncertainty and anxiety. Rogers also emphasizes that the process of personal development is not always easy. It often accompanies feelings of anxiety, uncertainty, and sometimes fear. When an individual begins to shed defensive mechanisms and explore deeper parts of themselves, they may feel as if they are venturing into uncharted territory. Letting go of old belief systems and behaviors can create a sense of insecurity and loss of control. He writes, "The person who is undergoing change may experience moments of deep insecurity, questioning whether they will find their way through this process," meaning that someone undergoing change may experience profound insecurity, wondering if they can navigate through this journey. This is a natural part of the personal development process. The feeling of freedom. One significant experience that Rogers emphasizes in this chapter is the sense of freedom that an individual gains when they begin to live authentically. When individuals relinquish their defensive mechanisms and align with their true values, they feel a sense of relief and greater freedom. Rogers explains that this freedom stems from no longer having to play a role or live according to societal expectations. He writes, "There is a growing sense of liberation, as one becomes more free to express their true self without the constraints of societal expectations or past conditioning," which means that there is an increasing sense of freedom as a person becomes more comfortable expressing their true self without being bound by societal expectations or past conditioning. The feeling of integrity. Rogers suggests that when a person undergoes the process of personal development, they begin to feel a sense of integrity and wholeness within themselves. This means they no longer have to divide or deny any part of themselves. Instead, they can accept their entire being, including both their positive attributes and the aspects they once considered flaws. Rogers writes, "As a person moves towards self-acceptance, there is a growing feeling of wholeness, a sense that all parts of the self are now acknowledged and integrated, indicating that as a person approaches self-acceptance, they will experience a sense of integrity, a feeling that all parts of themselves have been recognized and harmonized." The feeling of responsibility. Another important aspect that Rogers highlights is the sense of personal responsibility that each individual experiences as they develop. As individuals become more aware of themselves and feel freer to live according to their values, They also realize that they must take responsibility for their lives and actions. This includes not only responsibility to themselves, but also to others and society. Rogers explains, with the freedom of becoming more fully oneself comes the awareness that one is also responsible for the choices they make and the impact they have on others, meaning that along with the freedom to be one's true self, a person also recognizes their responsibility for their choices and their effects on others. The feeling of expanded capacity for experience. Finally, Rogers suggests that a part of the personal development process is the ability to experience life more deeply and richly. As an individual becomes more self-accepting and open to their experiences, they can perceive life with a full range of emotions, from joy and happiness to pain and sorrow. This does not mean that life becomes easier, but rather that the individual is capable of facing every aspect of life more strongly and completely. He writes, the individual becomes more capable of fully experiencing life, with all its highs and lows, without shutting down or avoiding difficult emotions, meaning that the individual becomes more capable of fully experiencing life, with all its ups and downs, without shutting down or rejecting difficult emotions. Chapter 6 of On Becoming a Person helps us better understand the feelings that an individual may experience during their self-development process. Carl R. Rogers emphasizes that personal development is a complex and challenging process that also brings freedom, integrity, and the ability to experience life more fully. The feelings of uncertainty, anxiety, and responsibility that accompany personal growth are an integral part of the journey of self-discovery and the quest for harmony between emotions and reason. Chapter 7, A Therapist's View of the Good Life, the Fully Functioning Person. In this chapter, Carl R. Rogers presents the viewpoint that each person's perception and experience of the world is very different, because it is shaped by their personal experiences, values, and emotions. He emphasizes that an individual's truth is not an objective truth, but a subjective truth that is personalized. Truth is subjective. Rogers explains that truth is not something that can be defined in an absolute or uniform way, but rather it depends on how each person perceives it. This means that what one person believes to be true may not necessarily align with what others believe, and both can be true within their personal contexts. He argues that everyone lives in a subjective reality that they create based on their experiences and perceptions. Rogers writes, each person experiences life through their own lens, shaped by their unique experiences, beliefs, and emotional responses. This means each person experiences life through their unique lens, shaped by their distinctive experiences, beliefs, and emotional responses. This truth cannot be fully understood or shared by others, which is why people often have differing perspectives and approaches to the same issue. The way of perceiving the world through personal lenses. Carl Rogers describes how each person forms their own worldview by absorbing information from both external and internal sources. Our worldview is not only shaped by the objective events we witness, but also by how we feel, think, and interpret those events. This process helps each individual to have a unique perspective on the world around them. He writes, people construct their reality based on personal interpretations, which are shaped by past experiences, cultural influences, and emotional states. This means individuals build their reality based on personal interpretations, shaped by past experiences, cultural influences, and emotional states. This explains why each person may have a different understanding of the same event or issue. The importance of understanding subjectivity. Rogers asserts that to understand someone, we need to step into their subjective world without judgment and without imposing our personal views on them. Rather than trying to change someone else's perspective to fit our own, he encourages empathy and understanding of the truth that others are experiencing. He writes, to truly connect with someone, it is essential to understand their subjective reality, their way of seeing the world, which may be entirely different from our own. This means to truly connect with someone, it is crucial to understand their subjective reality, how they perceive the world, which may be entirely different from our perspective. Rogers emphasizes that understanding does not mean agreeing, but rather the ability to recognize and accept differences in personal experience. The freedom in perception. An important part of this chapter is how Rogers emphasizes that individuals have the freedom to choose how they perceive and feel about the world. As individuals grow and become more open to themselves and their emotions, they can change their perceptions and approach life in a more positive way. He writes, "The more open a person becomes to their own feelings and experiences, the more flexible and adaptable their perception of the world can be." This means the more open a person is to their own feelings and experiences, the more flexible and adaptable their perception of the world can become. This is part of the personal development process, where a person is no longer bound by rigid biases and can approach the world with a more open perspective. The influence of environment and personal experience. Rogers also emphasizes that the surrounding environment and personal experiences significantly influence how each person perceives truth. Past experiences from childhood to the present contribute to how an individual perceives life and relationships. The environment in which a person lives and works can also change how they perceive their truth. He writes, "Environmental influences, such as upbringing, cultural norms, and interpersonal relationships, shape how a person constructs their reality." This means environmental influences, such as upbringing, cultural norms, and interpersonal relationships, shape how an individual constructs their reality. Thus, each person is a product of both internal and external factors, and these factors contribute to shaping the subjective truth in which they live. Conclusion: the necessity of openness and understanding. This chapter concludes by emphasizing the necessity of openness and understanding in daily life. Rogers encourages everyone to listen and understand the subjective world of others, rather than trying to impose their beliefs on them. At the same time, he encourages each person to become more flexible in how they perceive their lives, so they can accept changes and foster personal growth positively. He writes, "The more we can understand the subjective experiences of others, the more we can foster empathy, connection, and growth in both ourselves and the people around us. This means the more we understand others' subjective experiences, the more we can promote empathy, connection, and growth, not only in ourselves but also in those around us." Chapter 7 of On Becoming a Person emphasizes that truth is subjective and that each person perceives the world through their personal lens. Carl Rogers encourages openness, understanding, and flexibility in life perceptions, as this not only aids personal development but also fosters deeper connections and empathy in social relationships. Chapter 8, Genuineness and Congruence in Communication. In this chapter, Carl R. Rogers explores the role of genuineness and congruence in communication, emphasizing the importance of expressing oneself authentically and consistently to foster connection and growth between individuals. Genuineness as the foundation of communication. Rogers asserts that genuineness is an essential element in any relationship. He believes that expressing oneself authentically not only instills confidence in individuals, but also promotes trust and closeness between communicators. He writes, "Genuine communication occurs when individuals express their true feelings, thoughts, and experiences without fear of judgment. This means that authentic communication takes place when individuals share their true emotions, thoughts, and experiences without the fear of being judged. When people are open and genuine in communication, they create a safe space where both parties can share and understand each other on a deeper level. Genuineness in communication allows individuals to accept each other with all their strengths and weaknesses, thereby building stronger relationships." Congruence between feelings and words. Rogers also emphasizes the importance of congruence between feelings and words in communication. He argues that when a person says one thing but feels something entirely different inside, this inconsistency can lead to doubt and a lack of trust. He writes, "When there is a lack of congruence between verbal expressions and internal feelings, it creates confusion and distance in relationships. This means that when there is inconsistency between what is said and inner feelings, it creates confusion and distance in relationships." Congruence not only reinforces genuineness in communication, but also fosters a deeper connection between individuals. When feelings and words align, people can more easily perceive sincerity and concern from others. The ability to listen and understand. Rogers contends that a crucial part of authentic and congruent communication is the ability to listen and understand others. He emphasizes that listening is not just about hearing what someone else says, but also about understanding and sensing what they genuinely want to convey. He writes, "Effective communication requires not only expressing oneself but also being fully present and engaged with the other person's experience. This means that effective communication requires not only self-expression but also being fully present and engaged in the other person's experience. Freedom in expressing emotions. Carl Rogers encourages individuals to feel free in expressing their emotions, not only when they feel positive but also when they feel negative. He writes, "Emotions are valid and should be expressed openly to foster genuine relationships." This means that emotions are valid and should be openly expressed to promote authentic relationships. When people can share their emotions freely and without the constraints of societal prejudices, they have the opportunity to create deeper and more meaningful connections with others. Personal growth through communication. Rogers concludes this chapter by emphasizing that genuineness and congruence in communication positively impact relationships and promote personal growth. When a person can express themselves genuinely and connect with others on a deeper level, they have the chance to gain a better understanding of themselves and develop into more well-rounded individuals. He writes, "Authentic communication fosters personal growth and self-discovery, allowing individuals to connect more deeply with themselves and others. This means that authentic communication promotes personal growth and self-discovery, enabling individuals to connect more profoundly with themselves and others." Chapter 8 of On Becoming a Person underscores the importance of genuineness and congruence in communication. Carl Rogers argues that expressing oneself authentically and consistently not only strengthens relationships, but also fosters personal growth. By listening and understanding one another, individuals can create deeper connections, leading to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. Chapter 9, The Issues of Freedom and Responsibility. In this chapter, Carl R. Rogers explores the relationship between personal freedom and responsibility in the context of self-development and building relationships. He emphasizes that freedom is not only the ability to act, but also comes with responsibility towards oneself and others. Freedom in action. Rogers asserts that freedom is a crucial element in the process of personal development. He writes, "True freedom involves the ability to make choices that align with one's own values and experiences. This means that true freedom encompasses the ability to make choices that are consistent with one's own values and experiences." He stresses that each individual has the right to explore themselves, shape their lives, and pursue their dreams. However, this freedom is not limitless. Rogers emphasizes that freedom comes with responsibility. Each person needs to take responsibility for their choices and be aware of their consequences. Responsibility to oneself. From Rogers' perspective, responsibility to oneself is an essential part of personal development. He writes, "Taking responsibility for one's own choices leads to personal growth and self-awareness." This means that taking responsibility for one's own choices fosters personal growth and self-awareness. When individuals accept responsibility for their actions, they can learn from their mistakes and experiences, thus maturing further. Rogers also points out that avoiding responsibility can lead to feelings of guilt, shame, and difficulties in personal growth. The refusal to accept responsibility can hinder an individual's development and limit their pursuit of new opportunities. Responsibility to others. In addition to being responsible to oneself, Rogers discusses the importance of responsibility towards others in social relationships. He writes, "In interpersonal relationships, our choices and actions affect those around us. Therefore, we must consider their impact on others." This means that in personal relationships, our choices and actions influence those around us. Thus, we need to consider their effects on others. When individuals are aware of their influence on others, they can create positive and supportive relationships. Empathy and understanding of others' emotions are also crucial aspects of this responsibility. Balancing freedom and responsibility. Rogers emphasizes that freedom and responsibility are not two separate elements. They must be balanced with each other. He writes, "True freedom is found in the balance between making choices for oneself and being accountable for those choices." This means that true freedom is found in balancing making choices for oneself and taking responsibility for those choices. When people can combine freedom and responsibility, they are better equipped to develop holistically and build strong and meaningful relationships. Awareness of responsibility not only helps individuals mature, but also contributes to creating a more peaceful and understanding society. Challenges in embracing freedom and responsibility. Rogers addresses the challenges individuals may face when trying to accept freedom and responsibility. He writes, "Fear of making the wrong choice can lead to avoidance of responsibility, which stunts personal growth." This means that fear of making the wrong choice can lead to avoiding responsibility, hindering personal growth. Rogers encourages individuals to accept that making mistakes is a natural part of the learning and growing process. Instead of fearing mistakes, each person should view them as opportunities for learning and growth. Conclusion: the necessity of freedom and responsibility. Ultimately, Carl Rogers asserts that freedom and responsibility are inseparable elements in the process of personal development. He writes, "Embracing both freedom and responsibility leads to a more authentic and fulfilling life." This means that embracing both freedom and responsibility leads to a more authentic and satisfying life. This chapter emphasizes that each individual needs to be clearly aware of their freedom and their responsibilities towards themselves and others. When people can accept and balance these two factors, they will develop holistically and create profound, meaningful relationships in life. Chapter 10: The Person in a Changing Society. In this chapter, Carl R. Rogers focuses on how individuals develop in the context of a rapidly changing society, as well as the role of the social environment in personal development and relationships. The impact of society on personal development. Rogers begins this chapter by asserting that personal development cannot be separated from the social context. He writes, "Individuals are shaped by the environments in which they live. Social contexts influence their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. This means that individuals are formed by the environments they inhabit, and social contexts significantly impact their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors." According to him, changes in society, from technology to cultural values, can affect personal development and how people interact with one another. Change and adaptability in a society that is continually changing. Rogers emphasizes the importance of adaptability. He writes, "In a rapidly changing society, adaptability becomes essential for personal growth." This indicates that in a fast-paced society, the ability to adapt is crucial for personal development. People need to be willing to embrace change, learn from new experiences, and develop skills to cope with the challenges they face. Rogers encourages individuals to view change as an opportunity for growth rather than as an obstacle. He believes that experiences in a changing society can provide valuable lessons and contribute to individual maturity. The role of social relationships. Rogers also discusses the role of social relationships in personal development. He writes, "Relationships provide a foundation for growth, allowing individuals to explore their potential in a supportive environment." This means that relationships provide a foundation for growth, enabling individuals to explore their potential in a supportive environment. Positive and genuine relationships create a safe space for individuals to express themselves, learn, and grow. When individuals feel supported and understood in their relationships, they are better able to explore themselves and develop more holistically. Challenges in modern society. Rogers does not shy away from addressing the challenges individuals face in modern society. He writes, "The pressures of modern life can create stress and anxiety, hindering personal growth." This suggests that the pressures of modern life can generate stress and anxiety, obstructing personal development. Factors such as stressful work, societal expectations, and loneliness can diminish an individual's capacity for growth. Rogers encourages individuals to be aware of these pressures and seek ways to address them. Caring for mental health and creating a supportive environment for oneself and others is vital. The importance of education and lifelong learning. Carl Rogers also emphasizes that education and lifelong learning are crucial in a changing society. He writes, "Lifelong learning enables individuals to keep pace with societal changes and continue to grow." This indicates that lifelong learning allows individuals to stay abreast of societal changes and continue to develop. Development occurs not only through formal education, but also through daily experiences, relationships, and personal exploration. Conclusion: development in an innovative society. Finally, Rogers concludes that personal development is a continuous and ongoing process, especially in the context of a changing society. He writes, "Embracing change and nurturing relationships within a supportive society are key to personal growth." This means that embracing change and nurturing relationships in a supportive society are essential keys to personal growth. This chapter underscores that individuals not only need to pursue personal development, but also must understand the relationship between that development and the society surrounding them. When individuals can adjust and adapt in an innovative society, they will be able to build a rich and meaningful life. Chapter 11, Inner Exploration and Personal Values. In this chapter, Carl R. Rogers focuses on understanding oneself and identifying personal values as essential components of personal development. He argues that inner exploration is a crucial journey that each individual must undertake to grow holistically and authentically. The importance of inner exploration. Rogers begins this chapter by emphasizing that self-understanding is the foundation for personal development. He writes, "Self-exploration allows individuals to gain insight into their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. This means that exploring oneself enables individuals to gain deeper insights into their thoughts, emotions, and actions." He believes that when people understand themselves better, they can identify their values and dreams, thereby making choices that align with their true selves. Awareness of personal values. Rogers further delves into the concept of personal values and how they influence our actions and decisions. He states, "Personal values are the guiding principles that shape our choices and define who we are." This implies that personal values serve as guiding principles that inform our decisions and shape our identity. He emphasizes that clearly identifying personal values is crucial for building a meaningful and fulfilling life. Rogers encourages individuals to take the time to reflect on the values they believe in and cherish. This not only helps them understand themselves better, but also creates a solid foundation for their life choices. The process of self-exploration. In this chapter, Rogers describes self-exploration as a continuous and ongoing journey. He writes, "Self-exploration is not a one-time event. It requires ongoing reflection and openness to new experiences." This means that exploring oneself is not a one-off event but requires continuous reflection and openness to new experiences. Rogers encourages individuals to seek opportunities to learn from various life situations, thereby developing and refining their personal values. The influence of society on personal values. Rogers also addresses how the social environment can impact the identification of personal values. He writes, "Societal norms and expectations can shape our values, but it is crucial to discern which values resonate with our true selves." This suggests that societal norms and expectations can influence our values, but it is vital to discern which values genuinely reflect who we are. He encourages individuals to ask themselves, "What values are truly important to me?" This helps them discover their authentic personal values and live by them. The connection between personal values and actions. Rogers asserts that there is a close relationship between personal values and our actions. He writes, "When our actions align with our personal values, we experience a sense of fulfillment and authenticity." This means that when our actions are in harmony with our personal values, we experience a sense of satisfaction and authenticity. He emphasizes that living authentically, in accordance with one's values, is crucial for personal development and happiness. Challenges in exploring personal values. Rogers does not shy away from discussing the difficulties individuals may encounter in exploring their personal values. He states, "Fear of disapproval or rejection can hinder individuals from fully expressing their true selves." This implies that the fear of criticism or rejection can obstruct individuals from expressing themselves fully. He encourages individuals to bravely accept themselves, even if it means facing disagreement from others. Conclusion. Inner exploration and personal values. In conclusion, Carl Rogers asserts that inner exploration and the identification of personal values are two essential factors in personal development. He writes, "True personal growth comes from understanding ourselves and living in accordance with our values." This suggests that genuine personal growth stems from self-understanding and living in alignment with one's values. This chapter highlights that the journey of self-exploration is a continuous and meaningful process. When individuals can understand and live according to their personal values, they will have the capacity to build a richer, more authentic, and fulfilling life. Thank you for watching the summary video of On Becoming a Person by Carl R. Rogers. Throughout the chapters, we have explored important aspects of personal development, from self-understanding and identifying personal values, to the significance of relationships and adaptability in a changing society. Rogers' ideas are not only theoretical but also very practical, helping us build a richer and more meaningful life. Remember that the journey of self-exploration is an ongoing process where each experience contributes to our growth. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments section. We would love to hear about your personal experiences in your journey of self-development. See you in the next videos, and may you always succeed in becoming the best version of yourself.